Good evening and thank you for being with us. The latest census data has been released regarding the Aboriginal population of Canada, and the stats show Thunder Bay now has the highest percentage of Indigenous people among Canada's largest cities. 10 years ago, Thunder Bay ranked 4th nationwide for Aboriginal citizens per capita, behind Saskatoon, Winnipeg, and Regina. But the latest numbers from StatsCan put our city in top spot, with more than 15,000 people, or 12.7% of the population, identifying themselves as First Nation, Métis, or Inuit in the 2016 census. That's just ahead of Winnipeg, followed by Saskatoon, Sudbury, and Regina. Here in the Northwest, Sioux Lookout's population is 37% Aboriginal, followed by Greenstone at 32% and Fort Frances at 25%. Kenora and Dryden are both around 20% Aboriginal. And in Thunder Bay, First Nations and Métis people have both seen a 50% increase in their local population over the past decade. Mayor Keith Hobbs issued a statement on the figures today, saying our community is changing and the city is embracing that and changing with it. We'll have more on the census data coming up a little later on in the News Hour. Officials from St. Joseph's Care Group say they're looking at where to locate extra transitional beds announced by the province this week and how they'll provide staff for those patients. Monday, Health Minister Eric Hoskins announced 47 new beds for the area, aimed at alleviating overcrowding problems at the regional hospital and St. Joseph's Care Group. St. Joe's is directly gaining 6 transitional beds and sharing 10 more with the hospital. St. Joe's CEO Tracy Buckler says there are many options they have to explore.
They talk about beds. It's not always beds. It can be spaces, it can be different units, it can be apartments, it can be wait at home, because people need extra support in home care to be able to wait at home for a different location, usually for long-term care. And so those are all the different strategies, and those are all the different funding that's required, the different amounts of funds that are required to be able to provide the alternate supports that people need and to make sure that people get the care that they require, but in the right location.
She says one example of that are the PR Cook apartments, which allow people receiving treatment to attend on an outpatient basis. The Northwest LHIN is working with St. Joe's and the hospital on how to best allocate the new resources. Buckler says adequate staffing may become an issue. St. Joe's currently has 64 unused long-term care beds at Hogarth Riverview Manor due to a lack of personal support workers. The new transitional beds may also require PSWs, and Buckler says that could affect their ability to offer new beds, depending on where they are located. The lobbying effort is picking up steam for provincial subsidies for highway bus operators after the latest service cut in our region. As we told you yesterday on the News Hour, Caribou Coach has announced the cancellation of its bus route between Fort Frances and Thunder Bay. Caribou says the route has become financially unsustainable due to low ridership and a lack of government support. The company now operates exclusively as a charter service. The Northwestern Ontario Municipal Association has been lobbying for subsidies for intercommunity bus service for several years now. NOMA Vice President Ian Angus says even companies like Greyhound won't survive in the region without support from the government.
There has to be funding. One of the things our study found was that none of the carriers really can make a financial go of it on the long term. And that in order to ensure that we have intercommunity bus service, we need to provide a subsidy that allows those companies to provide daily service, whether it's Casper or Caribou or some of the new startups or even Greyhound. I think that they need to be supported so that we can have the community to community to community bus system that we need.
A teleconference was held today involving the Ministry of Transportation, NOMA, and several other municipal groups. Angus says after hearing from the MTO, he's confident there will be a subsidy program in place for intercommunity bus service sometime early in the new year. A large crowd of striking faculty at Ontario colleges held a rally today outside the Toronto office of the Ministry of Advanced Education. Union officials were urging the province to tell the Bargaining Council for the 24 colleges to resume negotiations. Heather Wright has more.
As the Ontario college strike hits the 10-day mark, faculty and staff took to Bay Street, protesting outside the Ministry of Education building.
What's happening on day 10, unfortunately, is not very much.
Negotiations between the Ontario Public Sector Employees Union and the province's colleges has reached a stalemate with no plans to return to the bargaining table.
They haven't been willing to negotiate. They haven't been talking about these key issues.
Staff are demanding more full-time positions and an increased role in academic decision-making, while the College Council has offered a 7.75% salary increase over 4 years, plus a promise to improve the conversion of contract faculty to full-time positions. The strike has shut 500,000 students out of class, with fears they may lose the semester if talks don't resume.
For students that are looking for jobs come spring, or even looking for jobs come December, depending on when their apprenticeships end, their placements end, or when they graduate, now all that is on hold. So that's having an impact on their life.
Today, Greg Kung and Amar Alana met with Minister Deb Matthews and opposition education critics at Queen's Park, urging the government to get both sides back to the table.
We want to make sure that both parties, both the Employer Council and the faculty union, realize that students are the third stakeholder in all of this, and they need to get back to the table.
These protesters say they want talks to resume, but so far nothing is planned.
The February death of a man from the Mishkegougamang Lake First Nation has led to the laying of a murder charge. According to the OPP, 34-year-old Delbert Sanawap sought help February 23rd at his community health center for an injury he had suffered earlier in the week. Sanawap was then airlifted to hospital here in Thunder Bay, where he later died. An investigation has now led to the laying of a charge against a Mishkegougamang woman. 39-year-old Lisa Marie Kamanawash has been charged with second-degree murder. She made a preliminary court appearance in Kenora earlier today. At a time when Canada is in the midst of both a housing and an opioid crisis, a new documentary is hoping to raise awareness about homelessness and addiction. The producer of Us and Them is on a cross-Canada tour with the film, and it's being presented by the Thunder Bay United Way at the Finlandia Club tonight. Louisa Alvarez reports.
Their wisdom, their empathy, their intelligence is just something that probably no one could have anticipated.
Qualities many think couldn't belong to an addict or someone living on the streets. But why? They are people too, and that's exactly what this documentary is about. Filmed over the span of a decade, Us and Them chronicles Krista Loughton's experience befriending 4 homeless people that ultimately changed her life.
So my outer motive was to provide this unconditional love in a non-judgmental way to the people who I was using or trying to help in the film. But the inner motivation was my own need for that. And that doesn't come out until the end of the film.
Brought to Thunder Bay in partnership with the United Way, this documentary aims to not only highlight the humanity of those who are suffering, but also open people's eyes to the reasoning behind it.
And you can't leave this film without understanding and getting into a person's skin and being connected with these people that have experienced this. They had normal, everyday lives, and all of a sudden something knocked them off in their journey.
Although it is set mostly in Victoria, BC and Vancouver, it shines a light on issues that affect the entire country.
We have a housing crisis in Canada, we have an opioid crisis in Canada, and we also have an Indigenous homeless crisis in Canada. So there is much work to be done, and that's why this film is really important for people to see right now, because they will start to understand what individuals go through that live on the street.
Loughton adds the odds of an Indigenous person experiencing homelessness are substantially higher, and there are reasons behind that. Although racism isn't directly talked about in the film, she says it's a massive problem, and looking at ways to eradicate certain belief systems needs to happen before making a real difference. Louisa Alvarez, TBT News.
There is a new flag flying at Thunder Bay City Hall in recognition of early childhood educators. The provincial organization is calling for professional pay and better working conditions for their members. Today was declared Child Care Worker and Early Childhood Educator Appreciation Day in Thunder Bay. Councillor Frank Puglia was on hand to raise the flag with some help from special guests. The Association of Early Childhood Educators say parents in Ontario pay the highest fees in the country for child care. Lindsay Go-Martin is the CEO of the Little Lions Waldorf Daycare. She says early childhood educators often go underappreciated and undercompensated for the work they do.
Sometimes these staff are overlooked, maybe. I know wage-wise they're definitely overlooked, and we really do our best to make sure that they are promoted in the professional job that they're doing for all these children, and they're making such a difference in all of these lives.
We want to attract the young families and grow the city of Thunder Bay. We need childcare spaces. because young families, they work and they need to contribute to their families. And those points that I like to also reinforce about the need to ensure that we have a system in place that allows us to take care of the children so the parents can also go to work and we can attract more young families to Thunder Bay.
There are roughly 350 early child care workers in the city of Thunder Bay. A new charity campaign launched by Capita and St. Joseph's Foundation is aiming to make it easier for family members to stay overnight when visiting loved ones. The Sleeper Charity Campaign hopes to raise $25,000 to purchase 7 specially designed sleeper chairs. The new Hogarth Riverview Manor Seniors Home had a total goal of 14 chairs, but a generous donation from T-Baytel supplied half of those, valued at roughly $3,500 apiece. Those chairs fold out into beds and make it possible for guests to spend the night more comfortably.
Sometimes at end-of-life care, it's very important. Family members would like to stay and be very close. Sometimes when our residents get admitted into their new home, they'd like to have some company.
You have no idea how valuable they are. You need to be there. You don't know when the end is coming. You have no idea. They try to prepare you. They don't know. So to be there when I saw him getting sicker, I didn't want to leave. You can't leave.
The 14 chairs would mean 1 chair per home area at Hogarth Riverview Manor. Those wishing to donate can visit the St. Joseph's Foundation website. Thunder Bay's downtown areas will be packed this weekend leading up to Halloween. And while that's good news for businesses and partygoers, it also can lead to trouble getting home. That's why officials with the local ride-sharing service U-Ride are calling on the community to help meet the demand. Preventing drinking and driving was the main reason why Cody Roberto founded U-Ride earlier this year. He says the lack of taxi availability on busy nights is alarming, and something had to be done. This Saturday's Halloween parties draw thousands of people, and even with the U-Ride town cars on the road, demand is still too high. So far, 6 people have volunteered to help provide rides, and Roberto is hoping more will step up.
I came up with this idea. If we can get volunteers who want to come on board and help out for just the night of the 28th, I'll pay their gas, I'll pay their vehicle expenses, and for all the overflow we have on the U-Ride app, we can send these volunteers and give people free rides home. Communities embrace us. They've done so much to help my company, and I want to give back in whatever way I can. The least I can do is try to get everybody home on Halloween night.
Those interested can contact the U-Ride Facebook page. Drama, heartbreak, humor, they're staples in the work of award-winning Canadian playwright Drew Hayden Taylor, and those themes are on full display in the latest Magnus Theatre production, Only Drunks and Children Tell the Truth. The first performance is set for tomorrow evening. Here's Ryan Bonazzo with a preview.
Everybody hide!
Drew Hayden Taylor's scripts never hide from real life and real emotion, and Only Drunks and Children Tell the Truth, which centers around Janice, a young woman taken from her home during the 60s scoop, is no exception. But as the title might suggest, there's plenty of humor along the way.
It's not a history lesson, and I think that's the strength of Drew's work. It's a story of a family, and I think anybody can relate to that. You know, Drew writes very specifically about a very specific community very often, but the genius of Drew Hayden Taylor is that he's able to stretch that around to anybody who can enjoy the show.
The play opens with Janice's birth sister, Barb, her boyfriend and boyfriend's brother, who've come from their home community and broken into her apartment.
Who picked my lock?
My brother, Tonto.
Hi!
They deliver the news that her birth mother has recently passed away. A heartbreaking scene delivered with the right mix of emotion and laughter. What drew actress Samantha Brown into the story was the belief that anyone can relate.
There are people out there who don't know who they are, and then they end up becoming who they're supposed to be through culture, through family, through friends.
Humor has been so prevalent in terms of for First Nation healing, and that's how we survive and get through some of the turbulent times that we've been through. And that, you know, why we come to the theater is that we want to relate and connect with those people, those characters we see on stage. So hopefully audience members come and see, you know, themselves.
What are you all doing here in my apartment?
Only Drunks and Children Tell the Truth previews Thursday with the grand opening on Friday. It runs through November 11th here at Magnus Theatre. Ryan Benazzo, TBT News.
Your mother, our mother. I don't care if you drive up, put some flowers down.
Well, Fiona, turned out to be a pretty nice day. Hopefully everyone enjoyed it, because that might not be the case this time tomorrow.
Yes, we didn't get a lot of heat, but we certainly got the sunshine.